Hello, you've arrived at Running Behind. I'm Joey Metzger, your guide and host on this slow running journey, and I have a confession. I am a slow but persistent trail runner who likes to take on crazy adventures and ultramarathons. My perspective is from the back of the pack, what I like to call ordinary people trying to do extraordinary things. In this inaugural episode 1, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, how I got started running and specifically trail running, and what my running goals and ambitions are, and what I think this show is, why I'm doing it, and what you can expect from the future episodes. So, get your popcorn out, or maybe you've got your shoes on and you're headed out for your run. In any case, enjoy the ride. As always, I promise it will be pretty slow, but highly optimistic. Buckle up, let's get started because we're running behind. Well, here we go. Episode number 1. Wow. Guess I'm doing this. But what the bleep is this? And just who am I? You know what? Those were actually 2 very good questions. Let's start with me. I am Joey Metzger. I just turned 57. As I said, I am a slow trail runner who likes to try longer trail races and ultramarathons. I was never an athlete. I still am not considering myself an athlete. So maybe we should start with, the beginning, not 1968, the beginning, but my childhood, my lack of athletic endeavors. I have 2 notable athletic endeavors, and all that should be in quotes because athletic endeavors is hardly accurate to describe what I did. When I was in grade school, it was a small school, not very many kids. I think it was 6th or 7th grade, or maybe both grades. There was probably 7 or 8 boys total in my class. And so I joined the basketball team, not by choice, but I was on the basketball team. I had a uniform, and I went out there. And I don't know if I've even scored any points or anything like that, but yeah, I was on the basketball team. And that was it for my athletic career for quite a while. And then in high school, my junior year, I had some friends on the track team, and I think maybe I needed some, phys ed credits or something, but they twisted my arm enough where I joined the track team in my junior year. Okay, I know what you're saying. Oh yeah, you did track, so yep, running makes total sense. Nope, no, nothing like that. I joined the track team, and I had never really ran before. I didn't, as a kid you run around the playground or something, but I was not a runner, had never run before, was not athletic per se, and I joined the track team. And I thought, well, this will be fine. It's whatever, 1 semester of the school year, track team. Hey, you know what? I'm going to do the 100-yard, 200-yard dash because those guys are studs, right? That's cool. Yeah, didn't do the 100 or the 200-yard dash. We had some pretty talented people doing those races. The coach took one look at me and said, yes, new guy with no running talent. You will run the 3,200 meter race. Yeah, the 2-miler. So I guess that's like purgatory or prison for people on the track team, because the people running that race were myself and others who, I don't know, maybe they weren't well liked or maybe they wanted to do it. I have no idea, but I always felt like, yeah, that's where you put the people with no talent or that got into trouble. So junior year, I'm running the 3,200 meter 2-mile race. Never ran before in my life. I think the training sessions consisted of The coach is driving us about 6 miles out of town, and we ran back to the campus, to the gym. That was pretty much the extent of my training. I mean, I don't know. I didn't, I tried hard, but I just was not a runner. I was not athletic. I had a very hard time. So let's get into my illustrious, again, in quotes, illustrious athletic career on the track team in 1985. I ran the 2 mile race. I pretty much came in last every single race I ran it. I I came in last, or maybe sometimes third from last. So hey, that was my first experience at the DFL podium. Yeah, a lot of you listening know what the DFL podium is. If you don't, DFL is dead effing last. So if you come in last, second to last, third from last, guess what? You are on the DFL podium. And I pretty much did that absolutely every time. And I should say this though, there was one race, and I can't remember. We were competing against a smaller school, or maybe there was a couple schools and one didn't show up. But it turns out we got to the 3,200-meter race, and there's only 5 of us in it. And guess what? I took third. I took third. I didn't really run any faster. I guess everybody, the 5 of us that were left to run it that day, were all pretty slow and not athletic. I came in third. But if I think about it, I came in third, but I was still on the DFL podium. I came in third from last. So even in my greatest athletic success, it's equated to a DFL podium. That's it. That's my entire athletic history up through childhood and high school. That's pretty much it. I was very much into nerdy things. I was on the chess club. I was on the debate team, the speech team. I was on the I was on the physics team. Who even has a physics team? Yeah. And I did band, jazz band, and theater, and that was what I did. I was nerdy, I was creative. That's what I did. Never athletic. Yeah, that's pretty much it until, gosh, I don't know, 20, 25 years later, I'm in my early 40s and decided I should start working out. I did the weightlifting and strength training and stuff like that. And every once in a while, yeah, you hop on the treadmill for 10 minutes before your workout to kind of get your cardio up and do that. And that was the extent of, running, treadmill running. My then girlfriend, now wife at the time, mentioned to me, maybe you should do a little bit more cardio. It's really good for you. And so I started doing a little bit more over the years. I think around probably the time I turned 50, at work, they were doing like a 5K. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do that. That's 3 miles. I could do that. And so it was like this company work sponsored event. And I did it. I was hard. I got through it. I did it. And, I just turned 50 and I'm like, boy, I got to probably start looking out for my health and not just the strength training. I was like, you know what? I did that. I'm going to do one of those a week. I'm not going to be a runner, but I'm going to do one 5K a week and then maybe one other run as I'm doing some of my strength training, workouts. And so that's how I started. About 50 years old, maybe a little past 50, started doing a 5K a week and maybe another run of 1 or 2 miles, a couple times a week, 3 times a week. About a year later, I'm doing more, maybe 3 times a week. I'm adding in a longer run on the weekends. I'm like, let's try to go 5, 6 miles. Well, then I got in my head, it must have been, I don't know, 2019. I was like, I want to try to do a half marathon because it's like, nobody in my family had ever ran or did marathons or half marathons or even really probably 5Ks or 10Ks. But I was like, I want to do half marathon. My wife, she, in her former life, she used to do a lot of running. She won't like me saying this, but she was very accomplished. She did a lot of running. She was very competitive. She ran Boston Marathon, so that kind of tells you where she was at. She doesn't do that anymore, but at one point she was, you know, pretty damn good runner in my book. And so I was like, I want to try a half marathon. So I started training. I started, doing, 3 runs a week. I'm up to 3 runs a week and one longer one on the weekends, and get myself up to 10 miles and sign up for my first half marathon. Not into trails yet. And uh, signed up for it. And oh, I should mention this, by the way. As I'm training and doing these longer runs, I'm not athletic. I'm certainly not fast. I think in high school when I ran the 2 mile, I wish I would have saved my times. I'm pretty sure the fastest I ever ran that 2 mile, I'm pretty sure it started with a 14. So that was it. That's my top speed. And today I would love to run 2 miles in 14 minutes. That would be awesome. That's it's probably nowhere near what I could do today. So I'm getting ready for that first half marathon, doing longer runs, and I came across the Jeff Galloway run, walk, run method. If you've never heard of this, if you're an older runner or somebody who's never really run before, if this is something new to you, I advise you to check this out. And it's really great. It kind of gets you started from walking to running, and then it gets you doing longer runs when you're not, you know, not in shape to qualify for the Boston Marathon by any means, but it really helped me. And I set myself up where I can't remember what my intervals were, but I think I would run for 2 minutes, walk for a minute, something like that, or run for 3 minutes, walk for a minute. And you do that right from the beginning of the race. You don't wait till you get tired. You do that right away. So I trained with that, worked really well, signed up, ran my first half marathon. It was tough. I got cramps at mile 9 doing the run, walk, run method. But you know what? Even with the cramps and having to walk a lot of those last few miles, still to date, my fastest half road, outside half marathon I've ever done. So I swear by the Jeff Galloway method. If you've not looked into it, it's great. He's got a great book on it. You could get on Amazon pretty cheap. But so did the half marathon, got done, and I thought, well, I did that. Maybe I'll try that again. I'm certainly never going to do a marathon. Then I start progressing through my 50s, and I start doing a little bit more running. And I should probably talk a little bit about my skydiving injury. Yeah, I know. When I say that, boy, doesn't that makes you perk up a little bit? Skydiving injury. Yeah. Back in, oh gosh, 2010, 10 years before I started running, when I turned 50. So back when in my early 40s, my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, we were dating, and her family was doing skydiving. I'm terrified of heights, but skydiving, it's one of those things that's like, gosh, person should probably try do that once in your life. So I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. We're doing tandem. Nobody's doing solo. It's a one-day thing. You have an instructor strapped to your back and you jump out of the plane. These planes, by the way, they are so rickety. If any of you have ever done skydiving, why are the planes so like, I suppose to get you to like want to jump out of it, because they're just like these rickety things. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm more scared of the plane ride than jumping out. So anyway, yeah, you sign your life away with all these waivers and you go up in this rickety plane and you jump out. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, it's like flying, and it was crazy, and it was so fun, and you can see all the world, and then the instructor pulls the chute, and you're gliding down, and it's really cool until you get about 50 feet above the ground, and your instructor screams, "We've got a problem, kick your legs out." And that's the last thing I remember. I remember watching on the video, because they video all this, in the air and from the ground and stuff. And about 50 feet above the ground, we hit a crosswind, and all the air went out of the chute. We just dropped. We just bounced off the ground. I got knocked out. And of course, I've got an instructor on top of me and landed on my tailbone. Landed on my tailbone. And of course, I came to, pretty quickly, just within a matter of moments. And, my girlfriend, now wife, and family are there, and they come running over. How was that? And actually, all the the staff from the skydiving place came running out because they knew I had a problem and was probably hurt. And I'm like, I'm a little sore with the landing, but that was fine. I wasn't going to say anything. And I didn't say anything. I didn't go to the doctor. And about as I'm starting to do this running, I remember there was an episode where my best friend and I were in Kentucky on a bourbon tour. Also, highly recommend bourbon tours, by the way. But that's another podcast. We're in Kentucky on a bourbon tour. We're walking downtown Louisville, and my legs just go numb. All the way down my legs, starting in my spine, lower tailbone, all the way down through my legs and feet, just goes numb, and I have to stop every 2 minutes, stop and stretch out, and then I can walk. And so I started seeing a chiropractor, and we did images, and sure enough, yeah, I've got some damage in my tailbone. I've got some disc issues. And what happens is it all, ends up going into my sciatic. So my calves will go numb, my legs will go numb. And a lot of times it happens just when I'm standing, but sometimes from walking, it can happen early on in runs. But I've noticed when I do these longer runs that after it takes me like an hour to warm up, it really helps it and goes away. So as part of my care for this injury and what I deal with is going to see the chiropractor and also staying active and doing, running and doing longer runs because it does really help. Of course, if you're out there for 8 hours or something doing a 50K like I am, by the end of the day, yeah, you've got some issues there in your tailbone and sciatic stuff. But for the most part, it really helps. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing that. As I said, I do the half marathon. I start thinking, I don't know about a marathon, but I want to start doing some longer stuff. We end up getting, this is probably key too here for how I got into trail running. We got a Nordic Track treadmill, and I know I've got, friends on Strava and I'm in a couple of Nordic Track and iFit clubs. So I know some of you know what I'm talking about, but they have the built-in programs with all the great instructors, Tommy Rivs, Sally McRae, Lucy Bartholomew's got a series on there, Leah Rosenfeld. There's just a ton of them. Knox Robinson, love him. So we get this treadmill, and I'm running on the treadmill, watching these videos, and I'm seeing videos of some of these really great instructors doing these great workouts, and they're on trails. Sally McRae is doing some trail race out in Utah, and Lucy Bartholomew is doing the Transalpine, and I did that whole series. And I'm like, oh, I love to hike outside. I love exploring areas. I love, nature and forests and hills and mountains and water and all that. I love these trails. I had no idea you could run on them. What? So I'm on the treadmill, and literally the treadmill is what inspires me to start trail running. So doing these workouts on the treadmill, I start looking around locally. I live in the Minnesota area, in the Twin Cities, and I'm like, oh, there's trails around here. Cool. So I start running on some of these trails. About once or twice a year, I'll do a race. Like, I'm not doing the Twin Cities Marathon, but they do a 10-mile race. I'm usually doing that every year. And then I find, oh, there's trail races too. Great. So the first trail race I ever did was a race called Surf the Murph. And it is at still, I think, my favorite trails that are close to the Twin Cities. It's a park area called Murphy Hanrahan, and it's south of the Twin Cities. And it is great. It's got everything. It's got these beautiful, Midwest prairie grasslands, and then it's got some gnarly hills and some like technical rocky steep hills where you could bring some poles and throw them down. I have done that from time to time. So that's my first trail race. It's about 17 miles long. I guess that would be a 30K or whatever they called it. And I signed up for it. And I'm like, honey, I'm going to run this trail race. So she, meets me at the start and comes back and meets me at the finish, whatever. I think it was 3.5 hours later or whatever it took me. But yeah. And I remember taking a picture of the 14-mile marker and texting it to my wife while I was running and said, this is new territory, 14 miles. Got done. And I mean, that was pretty much it. I was hooked. I was pretty convinced that, trail running and these long trail races was just absolutely going to be a part of my life. So that was kind of how I got started. I guess that would have been in 2022, maybe, when I did that first trail race. Then in 2023, I signed up for a handful, like 4 or 5 races, including my first 50K. And those all went pretty well. They were not easy. Like I said, I'm slow runner. I do a lot of walking. I always tell people I'm not afraid to walk. It's fine. My goal is to sign up for these things and I look at the cutoff times right away. What's the cutoff? Is there a cutoff? Where are the aid stations? Okay, do I think I can do this? What kind of pace do I have to run, walk to finish this? I'm not doing the Jeff Galloway run, walk, run anymore, but I'm definitely taking plenty of walk breaks in these things and build those in, usually on the hills. So yeah, so in 2023, signed up for, 4 or 5 races, including I was really looking forward to it too. Backcountry Rise, and I believe that's Daybreak Racing. They do a lot of stuff up in the northwest area. I think they're based out of Seattle, but that's just a beautiful race. They do. They may have changed it, but that year they do a 20-mile race and then a 50K, and I don't know if they do like a 60K or whatever, a 50-mile too. Maybe they've changed that, but I signed up for the 20-mile race, and it's all right out by Mount St Helens, and I highly recommend that race. Through these podcasts with myself, or I'll have a panel with my buddies Eric and Mario and some other guests and friends. But, from time to time, we'll obviously talk about the Minnesota trails and trail races, but I also want to talk about some of these other great national races. But that's a beautiful one. If you're into trail running, trail races, that's a great one if you can make a little trip out of it. My wife and I did. We went out there and, it's Mount St. Helens. Oh, and here's the other thing I should mention too. As I start trail running, I start listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. I think a lot of us all watched Unbreakable. And then anything Ethan Newberry, Billy Yang was doing, his videos of Sally McRae at Western States. I remember watching that, getting really inspired. And then Ethan's movie of Gary Robbins doing the Barkley marathons. Oh my God. My wife actually watched that and enjoyed that one. But watching those things, just got me so inspired. And so in 2023, when I'm signing up for these races, I'm like thinking, you know what? I'm a creative person. I'm not a filmmaker. I've been in a lot of films as an actor and, a creative person. I've done a lot of films, but I've never been behind the other side of the camera. But I thought, I really enjoy those. I'd like to give back. I'd like to make films of all these races I do. And it might serve a couple purposes. It might show you that you don't have to be Debo you don't have to be Jim Walmsley to do these things. You could be a normal person. I'm pretty much a normal person, guys. I run, walk. I'm just really stubborn and persistent. So I finish these things, but I'm pretty much a normal person. So I like to film these to show the races, show the beautiful areas, and then to show people that, kind of like I say, an ordinary person trying to take on these extraordinary adventures. When we did the backcountry rise race, I was super excited because it's just gorgeous. I mean, I saw videos, I watched all the videos, saw a lot of photos, and I was very excited. Funny story. As we're flying into Seattle, we flew into Seattle and then we drove down to the race. It's actually probably closer to Portland, but we wanted to stay in Seattle. And as we're flying in, we're seeing all these smoke. And my wife's like, "Oh, look at the forest fires." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, very interesting." So whatever, I think it was 2 days later, we drive out to, it starts from the Mount St Helens scientific place, which is right by Mount St Helens, and you have a view of it. We get out of the car, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a lot of fog." And then, couple of sniffs later, and I'm like, "Oh, that's not fog. That is thick forest fire smoke." Yeah, you couldn't see but maybe 50 feet in front of you. Certainly, I never saw Mount St. Helens all day long, and it was hard to breathe. And I don't know the numbers exactly, but I remember seeing like did not start later. And I want to say 70 people got out of their cars, smelt the smoke, and were just like, no, we're not doing this. And to be honest, my wife was like, You're not running this, are you?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course I am. We flew how many miles and spent all the money on this trip. Yeah, I'm going to run it. I'll be fine. I'm going to go slow." I think the cutoff was 7 hours. Spoiler alert, I finished in 7 hours and 20 minutes. I was pretty much last. Angelo, a guy I was running with, finished like just steps behind me, but basically we were last. We were last. They had already torn the stuff down. My wife met me at the finish line, and she was, of course, worried about me. But yeah, they were already tearing all the stuff down, and but it was a great experience. I didn't get the film I wanted to make. I think I titled my film "Smoke on the Mountain," and I'll have a link to my YouTube channel in the show notes for these. You guys can check out some of my stuff, my silly adventures. But yeah, I got to meet Yassine Boone. That was pretty awesome. He was there with the Wyest Wolf Pack at the aid station. Very cool. James Holt, photographer. I spent a little time with him. He's an amazing photographer. It's, the photo you see of me on my Strava and some of my other sites and on my podcast, that James took that. He's a great photographer. But yeah, it was a great day. It was really hard. It did not go as planned. I had bee stings in my knees, and so I could hardly move. I got dehydrated at one point, so it's like my fingers were cramping so bad. On the downhill portion, I thought, well, I'll just be able to run that. I couldn't even run that. It was a tough day, and finished after cutoff, but they were really nice. And if you go to Ultra Sign Up, it shows that I finished the race. If you know the cutoff time, I finished after it, but I got to finish, so I appreciate that. But yeah, so that was 2023. I did a few other races. I my last race was my first 50K. 30. I ended up running like 32 miles because I was filming, and so I was doing extra mileage doing that, going to get shots and things. But that was at Fire Tower 50K. That'll be, as we do these podcasts and talk about Minnesota races, I'll definitely talk about that race. The Fire Tower races are put on by Jameson Swift. He and his wife Lisa, they do a great job. Highly recommend those. And like I said, we'll talk about more specifically some of the Minnesota races on future podcasts. But so that was 2023. Last year, 2024, I did some more filming. I think I did 3 or 4 races. I tore my hamstring in May, just doing a little tiny 3-mile run up by my house, and so lost a month or two. My big race for last year was supposed to be Mammoth Trail Fest. And what I like to do is I mean, my goal is to do mostly races around Minnesota, Wisconsin, pretty close to where I am because hey, it's expensive to travel and it's hard and to get all that arranged. So, but I like to do one destination race. And last year, my destination race was Mammoth Trail Fest. A lot of you have heard of that. Amazing event put on by Tim Tollison and crew. But We have two little cocker spaniels. We don't have kids. We have dogs, and one of my little pups, Ricky, got really sick with kidney disease, and about 3 weeks before the event, I had to cancel. And Tim was really nice, refunded. So I am registered for 2025 Mammoth Trail Fest, and knock on wood, Ricky's actually doing much better. We do about 7 different medicines a day. We do the fluids daily, and he's really perked up and doing well. So our plan, I'm putting it in the universe, is that as a family, we're going to drive out to California with the pups. Otherwise, this year, and I'll talk about it more in the next podcast with my panel discussion with Eric and Mario, but so we'll save that for then. But I've got a few other Minnesota races, some new ones, some I maybe done before that I might try again. So we'll talk about that. In terms of like my running ambitions, I guess everybody wants to do a 100-mile race. I'm no different. I'm 57. I would like to try to do a 100-mile race by the time I turn 60. That'd be great. I don't know what my body will allow, what my schedule will allow, but that would be great. I am going to try to do something beyond 30 miles this year. I don't know if it's going to be 100K or 50 miles, but I got to try to do that this year and then try to work my way up to that. And for me, it's like I could just do running and, on the treadmill and outside on trails and be fine. But the races are really helpful to me. They're really inspiring. They give me something to focus on, to train for. I'm sure that's way for a lot of you that do the trail races or other running events, marathons or whatever. But it really helps me with the training to stay focused, to stay on track. And so I think that's always going to be important that I have some of these events and races on the calendar. So that's pretty much me, how I got started running and my not athletic background, my non athletic career, and kind of what inspires me to do the races. So I guess we should talk a little bit about this. What in the heck is this? What is this? Why am I doing this? As I said, I started making movies and I've got a YouTube channel. It's Run Joy Run. I'll have a link in the show notes. But so I'm always looking for more creative outlets. When I moved to Minneapolis, I was an actor for a while. I tried to be a professional actor. I found out most acting jobs don't pay. So I've been in the corporate world now for 30 some years or so, doing that type of work. But I always need creative outlets. And the other thing I really wanted to do was be a voice from the back of the pack. I I have to give a lot of credit to Ben Mead and Chasing Cutoffs because, I listen to a lot of podcasts, running podcasts, love Free Trail, love, a lot of the different ones out there. But when I heard Ben's podcast, voice from the back of the pack, somebody that was struggling, somebody that is also a DFL specialist, as we say, I thought, wow, that's so cool. And he interviewed people that had struggles, that were not winning races. They were not even mid pack. They were back of the pack, people that were struggling to finish or getting DNFs. And so I really wanted to kind of follow in that and be another voice in that community and speak to us ordinary people who are trying to do these things. So that's really one of the reasons, probably the main reason, certainly I'm no Ben Mead and this is probably no Chasing Cutoffs, but something to help to speak to those people, to be a small voice for that part of the community, of those of us who are ordinary folks trying to do extraordinary things. One of the other reasons why I want to do this too, besides being a back of the packer, I'm a runner who didn't start running till I turned 50. And I did races last year, was running with people who were in their 70s, and it's so inspiring. And so I want to kind of also be the voice of us older runners. We have different things to deal with, if that's career or physical or injury. Maybe we got a late start to this whole thing. So, we're never going to be competing for the regular podium. We might be competing for the DFL podium, but I want to be a voice to kind of explore some of the issues that we go through and experiences we have as older runners. What do you expect from this? Well, probably going to try to do these bi-weekly, a couple of month. We'll see. Life gets in the way, and I am not doing these to monetize these in any way. This is purely for fun, purely hobby, purely to give back a little bit and have some entertainment out there. So I'll try to do these probably a couple times a month. Some of these will be just me. Sometimes I'll have my buddies Eric and Mario on. We'll do little panel discussions, talk about our current experiences and maybe current events and gear talk, stuff like that. And then I'll have some specialized guests. I've already got a handful of guests who said they want to do this. I don't know why they'd want to talk to me, but they do. And so I'm pretty excited about that. And so I'll have them on and we'll have specific topics and experiences we'll talk about with them. And yeah, I'm excited. I think this will be fun, and hopefully you guys will get something out of this. It'll be entertaining and maybe informative for you as well. I think that about covers it for this episode. We'll see where we go. We'll just, like I do in my races, we're just going to take this one step at a time and keep going and see where we get to. Well, there we go. Episode 1, numero uno in the books. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. Maybe you were able to find something entertaining or discovered some interesting stories or topics that might have you coming back to listen to future episodes. And if you did, that's great. You know what to do. Review, rate, subscribe, share. And if you didn't like it, that's fine too. There's a lot of great podcasts out there. Go check out Chasing Cutoffs with Ben Mead. Or I always love anything Free Trail's doing. And if you're looking for a little visual stimulation and storytelling, then head over to my YouTube channel, Run Joey Run. There you can find films of my various trail running adventures and struggles. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And if you've got an interesting story to tell, especially as a DFL specialist or older runner, then hit me up with a DM on my Instagram. I'll leave a link for that too on the show notes. So, until next time, take care and cheers. Keep running, keep walking, keep moving. Stay optimistic and do what you do. Remember, we will get to that finish line. We just have to take it step by step, even if we are running behind.